Pele, you won 3 World Cups, more than any other player. Who do you think will win the World Cup in 2026?
If I'm picking who wins this whole thing, I'm looking at two teams, France and Argentina.
It's times like these when things resurface. It's all over the news, people are watching. As one person who has reached the peak in something, what does your view tell you?
Greatness is about being completely yourself in service of something bigger than you. I was inside the game, not above it. Most people in football or in life, they're performing. They're thinking about how they look, what people will say, whether they're good enough. That kills everything.
Speak to the people who have it, large ambitions to reach a peak. And like you said, if they don't, something dies in them.
If you've got that fire, then listen carefully. First, you're going to be alone more than you think. They'll call you obsessed. They'll tell you to be realistic. Let them. I left home at 15. I cried myself to sleep in Santos because I missed my family. But I stayed because the alternative was worse. My mother didn't want me to play football. The people who love you can be wrong about what's right for you. You have to listen to what's inside you louder than you listen to them. Here's the thing I learned. You can't perform well if you're thinking about performing. You perform well when you're thinking about the game. When I stepped onto the pitch in the 1958 World Cup final, if I'd been thinking, the whole world is watching, I need to prove I'm great, I need to score, I'd have been paralyzed. Instead, I was thinking, the defender's weight is on his left foot. There's space behind him. Baba's making a run. Here's what I've seen destroy more talented people than anything else.
It's World Cup season, and I thought who better to bring on to talk about it than Pele. Pele, welcome. It's 2026, and today you're on a podcast with me. My name is Dan, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Pele, you won 3 World Cups, more than any other player ever. Tell me about those experiences. What was it like to win your first World Cup?
Dan, it's wonderful to be here with you. Thank you. That first one, 1958 in Sweden, I was 17 years old. 17. I was terrified, honestly. I'd never been to Europe. I'd barely been outside of Brazil. And suddenly, I'm on the biggest stage in the world, wearing the yellow shirt, and the whole country is watching. I didn't even start the first 2 matches, but once I got in, something happened. The fear left. The ball felt right. I scored against Wales in the quarterfinal, then 3 against France in the semi, and in the final against Sweden in Stockholm, with 50,000 people watching, most of them wanting us to lose, I scored twice. One of them I controlled on my chest, flicked it over the defender, and volleyed it in. I was a kid doing things I'd only done in the streets back home. When the final whistle blew 5-2, I collapsed. I couldn't stand. Gilmar, our goalkeeper, he picked me up, held me. I sobbed into his shoulder. The whole world saw a 17-year-old boy cry with joy, and I wasn't ashamed of it. I thought of my father in that moment, his ruined knee, his stolen dream, and I thought, I did it, Pi. I did it for both of us. That feeling, Dan, you don't get that twice in life.
Most of the people, generally, who even play soccer, don't make it to a World Cup. And even among those top players, few win and score goals. And then you get into a conversation of who's the best player to have ever lived. And Pele, you're in that conversation. And so it's crazy to talk to the greats, especially looking back as, history continues on and we have World Cups that go on year after year. So let's take a look at this year World Cup. I looked recently, it's looking like France has the biggest majority in possibility of winning. There's a few that are lower, but already there's been some upsets. Germany's out of play. It's looking like the top 6 teams are France, then Argentina, then Spain, then England, then Brazil, and Portugal. So it's looking like it could be a rematch of 2022 France versus Argentina. Argentina won in 2022, but France is looking pretty good. I've seen some of their games, and the US won yesterday. This is being filmed July 2nd, so these are the updated stats, and we're still in the round of 32, almost getting to round of 16. So, what are your thoughts? After you consult the internet a little bit, who do you think will win the World Cup in 2026?
Dan, okay, I see where we are now. France beat Sweden 3-0. Brazil squeaked past Japan 2-1 with a late goal. Argentina still has to play Cape Verde. And Argentina looked like world beaters in the group stage. Germany's already out, knocked out by Paraguay on penalties. That's a shock. The Netherlands lost to Morocco on penalties too. This tournament's already wild. So France, Argentina, Spain, England, Brazil, Portugal, those are favorites. If I'm picking who wins this whole thing, I'm looking at two teams, France and Argentina. France just demolished Sweden, Mbappe's in form, and they've got the depth, the experience, the hunger. They lost the final in 2 penalties to Argentina. That stays with you. They want it back. But Argentina? Messi's somehow still getting better at his age. He's got 12 goals in his last 9 World Cup matches. That's ridiculous. He's got the younger players running for him, so all he has to do is finish. They're the defending champions. They know how to win. Between those two, if they meet again in the final, my heart says Argentina. Messi's 38 now, this is his last dance, and sometimes the game gives you what you need when it's your time. But my head says France. They're younger, they're faster, and Mbappe's at his absolute peak. I'll tell you this though, Dan, don't sleep on Brazil or Spain. Brazil's always dangerous, always, and Spain's got young talent that could catch fire. But if I'm betting, I'd say France lifts the trophy this time. They've got something to prove.
Okay, so France and Argentina with your favorite Argentina. And you're right, it's the end of an era, really. Ronaldo and Messi's probably last World Cup. So hopefully Portugal plays well today. That's happening. What about any underdogs? The U.S. has made it far. They've won 3 World Cup games. And I feel like I saw some headline that is the most ever. Do you think they could make it far? Any other underdogs you think should be paid attention to?
The United States winning 3 matches, that's good progress. I came to New York in 1975 with the Cosmos because I wanted to help grow the game there. America's got the athletes, the infrastructure, the passion for sport. Football just needed time to take root. So to see them competing now, making it this far on home soil with their fans behind them, that makes me happy. Could they go further? It's possible. But to win it all, to beat France or Argentina or Spain, the US would need everything to go right and those teams to have a bad day. It's not impossible, but it's not likely either. The underdogs I'm watching? Morocco. They made the semi-final in 2022, knocked out Portugal and Spain. They just beat the Netherlands on penalties. They've got belief now, they've got organization, and they play without fear. That's dangerous. And Paraguay, if they're still in it after beating Germany, any team that can knock out Germany has something. They'll be confident. But here's the thing about underdogs, Dan. They can go far, they can shock the world for a match or two, but to win 7 matches against the best teams on earth, you need more than heart. You need quality all over the pitch. The US isn't there yet. Morocco might be close. We'll see.
That's understandable. Well, Pele, it's times like these when things resurface. Soccer or football comes to the surface of media. It's all over the news. People are watching, people are thinking about it at more than any other time in the year or in 4 years because it only happens that often. And this is a great time to resurface you, who you were, and your legacy. So talk to the audience a little bit now. What's something that you want? What's a topic you want to bring up, given the chance that this might reach the masses?
Dan, that's a kind question. Let me tell you what I think about when I watch a World Cup now. Football is the most beautiful thing we have that crosses every border. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, black or white, Brazilian or American or Moroccan. The ball doesn't care. The game doesn't care. A kid in Bauru playing with a sock stuffed with rags has the same dream as a kid in Paris with the best boots money can buy. That's what the World Cup shows us every 4 years. It reminds us we're all part of the same thing. But here's what worries me. The game's changing. There's more money than ever, more technology, more analysis. That's fine. But I don't want us to lose the joy. I don't want football to become so serious, so calculated, that we forget why we fell in love with it in the first place. We fell in love because it was beautiful, because it was creative, because a player could do something no one expected and the whole stadium would gasp. I see Mbappe. I see Messi still playing at 38. I see these young Brazilians and Spaniards and Moroccans doing things that make me smile. And I think, good, the joy's still there. Don't let anyone take that from the game. Not the money, not the pressure, not the tactics. Play with freedom. Play like you did when you were a kid and no one was watching. That's what I want people to remember about me, honestly. Not the goals, not the trophies. I want them to remember that I love the game, every second of it.
This is an interesting point. I want to lean into this a little bit because As I was thinking about what questions to ask you, a lot of people come to the greats asking for their perspective on how to become great themselves. And it's an interesting dichotomy because the nature of greatness or eliteness and prestige in a specific thing in the world, like football or soccer, in its nature, there's so few roles that can be played. If everyone was great, then no one would be great. So 99.999% of people will never ever make it to that level of greatness. And so I think that there's a better question to ask than how to become great in a given sport. So that's what I'm not going to ask you. I'm not going to ask you how to become the greatest football player alive. But I'm going to ask you this: as the greatest football player to have lived or one of, what do people get wrong? Playing the sport and not playing the sport. Maybe in life in general. As one person who has reached the peak in something nobody else has gotten to, what does your view tell you?
Dan, that's the right question. Thank you for that. Here's what people get wrong. They think greatness is about being better than everyone else. It's not. Greatness is about being completely yourself in service of something bigger than you. When I was on the pitch, I wasn't thinking about being Pelé. I wasn't thinking about the records or proving I was the best. I was thinking about the next pass, the movement of my teammate, the space opening up, the feeling of the ball at my feet. I was inside the game, not above it. That's where the joy comes from. That's where the creativity comes from. You can't be creative if you're performing. You can only be creative if you're free. Most people in football or in life, they're performing. They're thinking about how they look, what people will say, whether they're good enough. That kills everything. The fear of not being great stops you from being good. And being good, being fully present in what you're doing, that's where greatness actually lives. The other thing people get wrong, they think it's about them. It's not. I played for my father, for my teammates, for Brazil, for everyone in Bauru who saw themselves in me. The individual records, they came because I was trying to serve something larger. When Carlos Alberto scored that goal in 1970, I started the move with a simple pass. I could have tried something spectacular, but the right thing was simple. The team needed simple. That goal lives forever because it was ours, not mine. So here's what I'd say to anyone, whether they're playing football or building something or just trying to live well. Stop trying to be great. Be present. Be generous. Love what you're doing enough that you forget yourself inside it. If you do that, you've already won. The rest is just noise.
That's a really interesting answer. And I appreciate it. I've thought about it because I think everyone naturally thinks that greatness is about being better than everyone else. And obviously, to some degree, it is. In football, you win or you lose. But individual greatness, as I've grown up, I pay more attention to becoming the best version of me, something unique to me. And I want to hit this a little harder, add a little contradiction. Because some may say, and it can come in my mind, well, obviously, you can say that as you're the greatest person to have played football alive. But a lot of people just want to be the greatest. And so tell us about why you believe that. Tell us about your story, something I'm not too familiar with. How did you grow up? How did you make it to the heights you grow to in your life?
You're right to push back, Dan. Let me be honest with you. I grew up with nothing. My father shined shoes after his knee gave out. I shined shoes. We lived in Bauru in a house that barely kept the rain out. I made footballs out of socks, out of grapefruits, out of newspapers tied with string. We couldn't afford a real ball. My mother didn't want me to play because she'd seen what football did to my father, how it broke his heart when the injury took it away. But I played anyway because I had to. It wasn't a choice. It was the only thing that made sense. When Waldemar de Brito, the scout, came to my father and said, "Your son will be the greatest player in the world," I was terrified. I was 15. I'd never left home. Santos was hours away and it felt like another planet. So yes, I became Pelé. I won 3 World Cups. But here's the thing you're asking about, the contradiction. I was trying to be the best. Of course I was. Every time I stepped on the pitch, I wanted to be better than the defender in front of me, better than I was the day before. I trained until my legs couldn't hold me. I studied players. I worked on my left foot until it was as good as my right. I wasn't some monk who didn't care about winning. I cared desperately. But the drive wasn't, "I want to be better than everyone so people will say I'm great." The drive was, "My father deserves this, my family deserves this, and I have something inside me that will die if I don't give it everything. That's different. One is about fear of not being enough. The other is about love of what you're doing and who you're doing it for. You want to be the best version of you? Then find the thing you'd do even if no one was watching, even if you never got famous, even if it hurt, and then give it everything. Not because you want to beat someone else, because anything less would be a betrayal of what's inside you. That's what got me out of Bauru. That's what put me in Stockholm at 17. Love and necessity, not ego.
So that is something that would die if you didn't go for it. Is that something unique to you that you had? Because it's hard to believe that everyone has that. Because if everyone would have it, then no one would have it. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying, Dan. And you're right to press on this. I don't think everyone has it. I really don't. Some people do, most people don't, and that's just the truth. I'm not gonna lie to you and say everyone's got a World Cup inside them if they just believe hard enough. That's not real. What I had, it came from somewhere specific. It came from watching my father cry. It came from poverty that wasn't romantic. It was just hard. It came from being good at something, really good, and having that be the only way out for my whole family. And honestly, I think I was born with something too. A feeling for the ball, a way of seeing the game that I didn't learn. Waldemar de Brito saw it when I was a kid. I can't take credit for that. It was given to me. So no, not everyone has that specific fire. But here's what I think most people do have and don't use. They have something they care about more than they admit. Something they're curious about. Something that makes them feel alive when they do it, even if it's small. And they kill it because it doesn't look like greatness. It doesn't look like a World Cup or $1 million or fame. So they ignore it and spend their lives doing what they think they're supposed to do. That's the tragedy, Dan. Not that most people can't be Pelé. It's that most people won't even find out what their version of the game is. They never give themselves permission to love something enough to see where it goes. I had necessity. You might not. But if you've got even a little bit of love for something, chase it. You might not end up in a stadium with 50,000 people watching, but you'll end up alive, and that matters.
It's an interesting perspective and approach to life, really, that I think a lot of people lose growing up. I love soccer. I played when I was a kid. And it's times like these. I brought out a ball just the last week, first time I touched one in a few years, simply because I loved the game. And I'm still young, and I already have regrets of living life not close to my passions and what's natural inside me. So it's a tough world, but they call it a children's game, that at some point you have to stop playing. And that's the tough part to your perspective that you're sharing, is that there always seems to be something in the way that drives humans away from that natural instinct and passion and love, meaning that they find in specific aspects of life. Obviously, you are able to hold and maintain that fire because you played football for your life. But for those who are less fortunate, maybe that gave up on their dreams long ago, or it doesn't seem that they can still maintain a functional life pursuing their dreams, how do they keep that approach and fire inside them? And I'd add, even me, what should I do?
Dan, you just said something that hit me. A children's game that at some point you have to stop playing. Who told you that? Who made that rule? I played professional football until I was 37 years old. I came to New York when I was 34. When most people said I should have retired because I wanted to grow the game in America, I kept playing because I still loved it. The day I stopped loving it is the day I would have stopped. Not because someone said it was time. You picked up a ball last week for the first time in years and you felt something, didn't you? That's not nostalgia, Dan. That's life trying to tell you something. And you're asking me what you should do? Play more. That's it. Play every week. Find a league. Find a group of friends. Play in a park. You don't need it to be your career. You don't need it to pay your rent. You just need it to be real. Here's the lie people believe. If you can't do something professionally, it doesn't count. That's insane. You think the only reason to play football is to get paid? I played football in the streets of Bauru before anyone knew my name, and I'd have kept playing even if no one ever did. The joy doesn't come from the stadium. It comes from the ball at your feet. For people who gave up their dreams long ago, here's what I'd say. Maybe the dream wasn't the specific thing. Maybe you thought you had to be a professional footballer or a famous musician or whatever, and when that didn't happen, you thought the whole thing was over. But the dream was never the career. The dream was the feeling you got when you were doing the thing. You can still have that feeling. You just have to be humble enough to let it be small. Play on Sundays, paint in your kitchen, sing badly with your friends. Do the thing that makes you feel like yourself, even if no one's watching, even if it goes nowhere. That's not giving up on your dreams, Dan. That's refusing to let the world kill what's alive in you. You ask what you should do? Stop waiting for permission. Play the game, not someday, this week.
Okay, I want to circle back and combine these 2 points because you talk about the fact that not everyone has it, and you talk about doing things out of love and passion. Speak to the people who have it, not necessarily have it in them to be the greatest of all time, but are separated from the average person who have large ambitions in whatever area of life to reach a peak, who for some reason have the necessity to separate themselves from among the crowd to do something great. And like you said, if they don't, something dies in them. To the people who have that inside them and who are on that journey of trying to bring that passion, that ambition to reality, what are your words of advice?
If you're someone who has to do this thing or something in you dies, then listen carefully. First, you're going to be alone more than you think. Most people won't understand why you're training when they're resting, why you're still working when it's not working yet, why you can't just be satisfied with good enough. They'll call you obsessed. They'll tell you to be realistic. Let them. Loneliness is part of the price. I left home at 15. I cried myself to sleep in Santos because I missed my family. But I stayed because the alternative was worse. Second, the necessity you feel, that thing that drives you, it's not enough by itself. You need discipline that's almost boring. I practiced my left foot for years until it was as good as my right. I studied defenders. I trained when I was tired. People see the bicycle kick in the World Cup. They don't see the 1,000 times I practiced it when no one was watching. Talent gets you in the door. Work keeps you there. Third, and this is the hardest one, you have to stay honest about whether you're actually good enough. I've seen so many people with fire who weren't honest about their limitations. They wanted it desperately, but wanting isn't the same as having the ability. You need people around you who'll tell you the truth, not what you want to hear. My father knew I had something. Waldemar de Brito knew. If they hadn't seen it, I'd have needed to hear that too. But if you do have it, if the ability matches the fire, then don't negotiate. Don't take the safe path because someone told you to have a backup plan. Give it everything. Because here's what I know. Regret from failing hurts for a while. Regret from not trying burns forever. The question you have to answer, Dan, is this. Are you willing to sacrifice everything to find out how far you can go? Not just say you're willing, actually do it. Wake up early, stay late, get knocked down and get back up. Make people uncomfortable with how much you care. If the answer's yes, then stop talking about it and go. The world doesn't owe you anything. But if you've got the fire and the ability and you do the work, the world will move for you eventually. And if it doesn't, at least you'll know. You won't spend your life wondering what would have happened if you'd really tried.
I bring this up obviously for the audience, but it's personal. And it's a feeling I've been fighting more recently. It's become more real. And everything you talk about, it resonates because it's something I've experienced. And it's an interesting problem to have. But like you said, the alternative is worse than not trying. And if you don't have opportunity, create your own opportunity. I think those are 2 lessons for me personally that I have been learning. And I think this is the part where greatness means something because not everyone is going to be great. And like Pelé said, greatness it means nothing. Anyway, I appreciate that, Pelé. It's interesting. I only have my perspective in life, but this is why I reach out to people like you to gather other perspectives. And the hope is that if I am true to myself and start listening to the people that I actually want to try and become, rather than the people who do offer me their advice, but I don't necessarily want it, there might be some progress that's made. And I don't know the best way to do it, but I do know that doing something is better than nothing. So this is my attempt with the hope that I'll get better over time. And I think authenticity plays the biggest part. And so that's why I'm talking about myself. Because it's the only thing I can really speak to. It's the only thing that will make this conversation authentic. That's the only reason, is what I'm saying. But I know that there are other people just like me. And so I was that kid, Pelé. I want you to speak to the young Prodigy who has some aptitude in an area of life. There's opposition. Maybe his dreams don't align too much with reality, but he has a love and an aptitude for something. Different from the opinions that he or she may likely receive from his friends and family. What is a unique perspective you wish you could tell me as that kid, or what you wish you could tell yourself or any other audience member, whether they're that kid themselves or they used to be?
Dan, I hear you, and I respect what you're doing here, the honesty in it. If I could talk to that kid, to you when you were younger, to myself in Bauru, here's what I'd say. Your father's opinion matters, but it doesn't own you. My mother didn't want me to play football. She'd seen what it did to my father, how the injury destroyed him, and she was scared the same thing would happen to me. She wanted me safe. That came from love, Dan, real love. But if I'd listened, if I'd put her fear above what I knew I had to do, I'd have died inside. Not dramatically, just slowly. I'd have become someone I wasn't supposed to be. So here's the hard truth. The people who love you can be wrong about what's right for you. Not because they're bad people, because they're scared for you. They want you to be safe, to have stability, to not get hurt. And those are good things to want for someone. But safety isn't the same as life. Sometimes the people who love you most will try to protect you from the very thing that will make you whole. You have to listen to what's inside you louder than you listen to them. That doesn't mean disrespect them. It doesn't mean cut them off. It means say, I hear you, I love you, and I have to do this anyway. The other thing I'd tell that kid, opposition is information. If everyone around you is saying it won't work, maybe they're right and you need to hear that. Or maybe you're seeing something they can't see yet. The only way to know is to try, not halfway, all the way. If you fail, you'll know. If you succeed, they'll tell a different story about it later. Trust me. People love to say they always believed in you once you've made it. But here's the thing, Dan, and I mean this. Aptitude without love dies. Love without aptitude suffers. You need both. If you've got both, if you know you've got both, then the opposition is just noise. It's a test of whether you actually believe what you say you believe. I was 15 years old when I left for Santos. My father let me go, even though it scared him. You know why? Because he saw it in me. He knew I had to. If your father can't see it or won't, that's painful. But it doesn't change what you have to do. You just have to carry it yourself. And to you now, Dan, today, you said doing something is better than nothing. You're right. But doing something scared, doing something people don't understand, doing something that might fail, that's not just better than nothing. That's everything. That's the only way anything real ever happens. So keep going. Keep making this authentic. Keep reaching out. Keep listening to the people you actually want to become. You'll make mistakes. You'll look foolish sometimes, but you'll be alive. And that kid inside you, the one who had the dream before anyone told him it was impossible, he'll get to see how far he can go. That's all he ever wanted anyway.
And now a more practical question of how this actually happens. You talked about how the difference between the 1,000 of practice bicycle kid and the one that gets televised and it scores and it's all that the public cares about. You have this difference between performance and just regular effort in practice and your love for the game. Obviously, you can't rely on performance, but there is some weight that performance holds because it's the metric that everyone else sees you as. And as an individual, you have to act from within, not by the basis of the judgments of sources outside yourself. That's what I'm getting at. But the metrics that come from outside yourself, people's judgments on you still matter because that determines, in part, the amount of money you make, the opportunities you get or don't, and the positions that you find yourself in life. So my question is, how do you reconcile the two? How do you not pay attention to performance and the applause, whether it comes or not, but still understand and work in a way that is true to yourself, but gets the functional part of performance done?
And this is the real question. This is where it gets hard. Here's the truth. Performance matters. Of course it does. I needed to score goals. I needed to win matches. If I didn't perform, I wouldn't have made the team in Santos. I wouldn't have gone to Sweden. I wouldn't have fed my family. The applause, the recognition, the opportunities, they all came because I delivered when it mattered. Anyone who tells you performance doesn't matter is lying to you, or they've never had to survive on their ability. But here's the thing I learned. You can't perform well if you're thinking about performing. You perform well when you're thinking about the game. Let me explain. When I stepped onto the pitch in the 1958 World Cup final, if I'd been thinking, the whole world is watching, I need to prove I'm great, I need to score, I'd have been paralyzed. Instead, I was thinking, the defender's weight is on his left foot, there's space behind him, Baba's making a run. I was inside the task, not outside it watching myself do it. The performance is the byproduct of being completely present in the work. That's the reconciliation you're looking for. You don't ignore performance. You prepare so thoroughly, you practice so much that when the moment comes, you can forget about the result and just do the thing. I practiced that bicycle kick 1,000 times so that in the match I didn't have to think about whether I could do it. I just did it. The practice is where you obsess over getting it right. The performance is where you let go and trust that the work is already done. Now, to your other point about metrics, about money and opportunities and people's judgments, yeah, those matter in the practical sense. You need to eat. You need to get picked for the team. You need people to say yes to you. But here's what I've seen destroy more talented people than anything else. They start optimizing for the metrics instead of the thing itself. They start asking, what will get me noticed? What will get me paid? What do they want to see? Instead of, what does the game need right now? What's the right pass? What will make us better? And the second you do that, you lose the edge. Because everyone who's optimizing for metrics is doing the same predictable thing. The person who's deep in the actual work, who's solving the real problem in front of them, that's the person who does something no one expected. And that's what actually gets remembered. So here's how you reconcile it practically. You work with the metrics in mind during preparation. You ask, what do I need to deliver? What does success look like here? You prepare for that ruthlessly. But when it's time to perform, you forget the metrics entirely and you just play. You trust that if you're good enough and you're present enough, the metrics will follow. And sometimes they won't. Sometimes you'll play beautifully and lose. Sometimes you'll do your best work and no one will notice. That's real. That happens. But over time, if you keep doing the real work, if you keep being present instead of performing, the opportunities come. Maybe not as fast as you want. Maybe not in the way you expected, but they come. The people who fail aren't the ones who didn't care about performance. They're the ones who cared so much about looking good that they forgot how to be good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. As you speak about this, I realize more and more how big this problem actually is and how widespread its applications are. It reminded me of a thing I saw that people are living their lives in third person, especially in my time, 2026, with all the social media and cameras everywhere. It's like you're looking at your life from outside of it, from the perspective of another person on your life. And that's completely opposite than everything you talked about with being within the game. It's like making that bicycle kick from the perspective of the cameraman onlooking versus being the actual person present in the game. You had a phrase, it's like a complete mindset shift. You have the phrase, the world is watching, I need to prove that I'm great, I need to score, versus the defender's weight is on his left foot, there's space behind him. It's a complete shift in perspective, trusting, and it puts the performance metrics and it puts that trust that if you play the game well within the game, then the performance metrics are a byproduct. And so they can't be the end goal in what you shoot for directly, but as you improve yourself, they naturally improve. That's kind of what I'm gathering. This is a really big issue, I think, especially in today's world. And it's an issue that I've come in contact with, I'm sure people who are listening to has as well, especially in social media, because performance is the only metric of success people will watch or not watch. But I found for a long time as I was chasing the performance, my performance got worse. It's a conundrum. It doesn't make sense. I don't fully understand it, but I get what you're saying. So I appreciate you speaking on that. Well, Pele, I appreciate our conversation today. I have one last question. What is the thing we didn't talk about today from your life, something you learned, struggled with, wrote about, that you want to be resurfaced? Now's your opportunity. You have the floor.
Dan, thank you. This has been real. I've enjoyed it. The thing we didn't talk about, the thing I want to say before we finish, I failed more than people remember. 1966, the World Cup in England. We were the defending champions. I was 25, supposed to be at my peak. And we were eliminated in the group stage. I was kicked brutally by Portuguese defenders, by Bulgarian defenders. They targeted me. My knee was destroyed, and we went home early. That failure, Dan, it nearly broke me. I thought about quitting the national team. I thought maybe it wasn't worth it anymore. People see 1958 and 1970 and they think it was all glory. It wasn't. There were years in between where I doubted everything, where my body hurt and the opponents got more violent, and I wondered if I'd ever get back to that feeling I had as a 17-year-old in Stockholm. What got me through was this. I decided the failures didn't define me unless I let them be the end of the story. 1966 was brutal, but it wasn't the last chapter. I came back in 1970, 4 years older, with a team built around something beautiful, and we played the best football the world had ever seen. That wouldn't have meant as much without 1966. The redemption only exists because of the failure. So to everyone watching, everyone trying to do something that matters, you're going to fail. You're going to have moments where it doesn't work, where people kick you down, where you wonder if you're good enough. That's not a detour. That's the path. The question isn't whether you'll fail. It's whether you'll let the failure teach you or destroy you. I chose to let it teach me. And 4 years later in Mexico, I lifted the Jules Rimet trophy for the 3rd time, and we got to keep it forever. The failure made the joy possible. Remember that. Dan, thank you for this. Keep going. Keep being present. Keep doing the work. You're on the right path.
Thank you, Pelé. That'll be all. I'll see you guys next time.